I was so amazed, and I left there feeling, oh my goodness, I can do this.
It is so good from start to finish. It's hard to say one aha.
VIP session is extremely helpful. I didn't expect it would be that, like, even just anything that anybody asks is very helpful, even though sometimes I might think it might not be relevant to what I'm doing, but every question, every moment, it's been very valuable, and I very much appreciate that. And I would definitely recommend this to anybody.
Would you feel that you got more done in these 3 days that you have when in goal setting that you have in the last 3 years?
Yeah.
It's definitely true that we've accomplished more in these 3 days than the last 3 years. It has been an amazing experience. The amount of things that we are able to accomplish, not to have a to-do list when we're done. We do have things that we're going to do, but we have a to-done list, and we were able to create assets, and we were able to do it with a guide. It was worth all of the money that we spent on doing it. You talk about hiring a coach. It is so valuable to hire the coach that will help you to do the thing.
We always talk about the end goal, but not how do we get there. And so we've learned a lot about how to do that.
Do I find this valuable? Yes. I wouldn't be staying up this late when I'm so tired if I didn't find it valuable. Have I paid that premium price for the same information? Yes, I have. You connect with different people, and I very much connect with you and your community too, so I would highly recommend this. Yes.
The ability to converse with you guys and ask questions, and then you can kind of tailor what we need. I mean, that's also helpful, that you can see what we need when we're speaking about it, so that it's not a lot of guesswork or something.
I'm really grateful for the accountability of seeing everyone's faces and the questions that are asked. I really like the community aspect of the VIP and just asking questions. I am looking forward to networking with more people and getting more uncomfortable.
You know my story about the English teacher?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't pass English until she evaluated where we were and then started from there. And so that's what I feel like this whole experience has been, is helping us to come up meet us where we're at, and then bring us up higher.
That's why I love coaching, because
you're
not going to get that from a book. You won't get that from a YouTube video. You won't get that from a podcast. That's why it's when you're here for the coaching, I'm here for the coaching. And as much as you could be present, I'll be present. You'll get more out of it when we're able to interact. And the interaction is where you can maximize your investment together. And so I love that too.
Oh, I've spent $10,000 in coaching more than once. And the reason why it was the best is because Enoch and his team has come together to help us with this specific niche and the specific problems that we were dealing with. Then we were able to build things. Before, we had processes and different things that were given, and we got the books, we got all the different things that came with it, but not the guide. That's really the key. It was the guiding through step by step, and the helping. And like I said, I've never been through anything like this as far as the implementation, to come and to spend the time. It cost me 3 days, but it saved me 3 more years. We were able to get our questions answered, that is, in a timely fashion. That was probably one of the most amazing ones, one of the biggest, companies out there, and we reached out, and, you got 100,000 clients, it's really hard to get back to one who's like, help, 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 help.
Throw out the lifeline, get this man afloat.
Yes, so yeah.
If you have an opportunity to work with Enoch, please do not hesitate. He is so knowledgeable, and his time is so precious, so make sure you get on his calendar quickly so that you can be able to work with him.
Welcome to day 5, the last day of the challenge. Man, those testimonies are powerful. I love hearing how health educators are being equipped and their lives are being improved. Today, what we're going to do is no different, and we're going to give you our step-by-step profit plan. As we are in closing this off, we're going to help you to get started so that coming out of this challenge, you have some clear steps to be able to monetize your knowledge online. And in fact, we're actually going to be covering 8 costly mistakes that are keeping health educators stuck at $10,000 a month or less. If you're trying to make your first $10,000 online in your health education business, or you're ready to break through to the next level, then this training is going to be for you. In fact, I call this God's plan for financial breakthrough. And if you want to remember, then all we got to do is to just remember how to spell the word God's plan, and we'll break this down for you. In fact, the reason why I call it God's plan is because God had revealed in his word. In 2 Kings chapter 4, there's a story in the Bible of a woman who was also in need of a financial breakthrough. Many of you may be here who are needing a financial breakthrough. We see that the economy has been very unstable lately. We see that the pandemic has restructured people's jobs. We see that AI is disrupting industries left and right. And there's some in schools are training people for degrees that will not, for jobs that will not exist in the next 5 years. So there's a lot of instability and questions as far as where do I fit and how do I start, and something needs to change. So today we're going to be talking about that. What principles can we learn that can help recession-proof you in this in any economy? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read 2 Kings chapter 4, these first 7 verses, and then we're going to break it down step by step to reveal God's plan for your breakthrough. Does that sound good? How many of you are ready to hear the plan? Type plan in the chat below. So in 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 1, the scripture says, "Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant my husband is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord, and the creditor is come to take unto him my 2 sons, to be bondmen. And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? And she said, Thy handmaid had not anything in the house save a pot of oil. And then he said, Go, borrow thee vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. And when thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and thou shalt pour out into all the vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full. So she went from him and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. And it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more. And the oil stayed. Verse 7, Then she came and told the man of God. And he said, Go, sell the oil, pay thy debts, and live, thou and thy children the rest. So this story is so powerful because it reveals God's plan for financial breakthrough. When I actually look through the way that the Lord led me through reaching from the financial situation I was in to be making $10,000 a month in my early 20s, and the same path that all of my mentors that I've ever learned from, they followed these principles either knowingly or unknowingly. And even in our clients, we walk them through stage by stage, step by step, how to break through. It all follows God's plan, because I do believe that in the Bible there are biblical financial principles, and when we follow those principles, finances is a result. So what does the G stand for? And really one of the first mistakes that people make is that they're in need of a financial breakthrough, but they're not actively participating or seeking or looking for solutions to their business, to their finances. And that's why the G stands for go seek a breakthrough. This is really important because the widow, she cried to the man of God. She said, thy husband is dead, and thou knowest that the servant did fear the Lord. And the creditors come to take unto my sons to be bondmen. And she's going to the man of God, and honestly, she's probably looking for an offering, but the man of God didn't give her an offering, gave her an opportunity. Gave her an opportunity that would empower her to be able to change her situation. And this is important because Jesus says, seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be open unto you. And the reality is, if we do not seek, we will not find. So we have to go look for a breakthrough. And to be honest, for years, I was afraid of studying money. I was afraid of understanding, or I was afraid of business or marketing, or thinking that there's something wrong with this, or it's distracting, or it's not something I could learn, or learn about sales, or to listen to books on business, or trainings that's like coaching programs and courses that are going to help expand my mind. These are things that, as long as I was not actively looking for a breakthrough, then how is God able to help us to really overcome? And sometimes people want to know, well, how do I seek a financial breakthrough? What do I do? Well, we look through courses and coaching, and we fill what I like to call our success library. Ask yourself, how much have you invested in your success library? People will spend $10,000, $30,000 on a car, but when was the last time you spent $10,000 on your success library, or on your mind, or on your skill sets to be able to monetize your knowledge? So many times people will remain so busy doing what's not working that they don't have enough time. They think they don't have enough time to learn something that actually will work. So they continue to maintain a state of diligence on what's not working. They work harder at what's not working, when instead of applying our mind, our thoughts, our time, or investing to learn into a path that will work. And so this is the shift that I had to make, and I had to start looking for, what can I look for? Where can I find this? And then also, like, how long do I seek for a breakthrough? And the answer is simple. It's until you find it. Because a lot of times we give up too soon. And when sometimes people will say, well, I invested in a program and it didn't make me a millionaire, those courses, they don't work. But the reality is, it's like, there are things that will give you pieces of the puzzle, but rarely do you see one thing that gives you all the way in every capacity where you need to go. And some mentors are more experienced than others. But it's just like, sometimes people will tell themselves, oh, I promised myself I never invest in another program again. And it's like, why would you do that? Everyone that I know who is successful, they continue to invest in themselves. They invested their time, their commitment, they invested their money, they improved their opportunities so that they could feed their minds to eventually feed their families. And had they quit at any time, they wouldn't have reached their financial breakthrough. My mama would always tell me, she'd say, don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle. And this is one of the best advice that I received, and that I carry with me still to this day. Who here feels that they're just one step away from a miracle? That you know your breakthrough is near and you are seeking for it and you're committed. Say, I am in the chat if I am committed to seeking that breakthrough and following God's plan for your life. So the G in God's plan stands for go seek a breakthrough. And we want to seek until we find. I love it. That's great. So what about the O? The O stands for obtain and submit to a mentor. And the big mistake here is trying to do it all from scratch. In fact, one of the principles, the practices that produces poverty is that, and I first learned this from the book Business Secrets from the Bible, which I recommended on day 1, I believe. And he was saying that poor people love to do everything from scratch. And when you look at successful people, they're not trying to do everything from scratch, from the ground up, because you have to reinvent the wheel. It takes so much more effort and energy. When they're trying to bring everything together from nothing, it's a lot harder to be actually to build, because you're responsible for everything. If it breaks, you got to fix it. If and you got many learning curves. And really when I was struggling as an educator, that's what I was doing. I needed a website. I went to go learn how to build that. I needed to edit videos. I edited my own videos. I recorded. I was my own cameraman. I was the speaker. I was like the head cook and bottle washer. And it was just like, it was exhausting. And it was my mom who was like, look, Enoch, you can't just do this all by yourself. You got to hire some help. You got to find other people who can help you. And you got to build a team. And I was just like, who in their right mind is going to work with me to want to do that? And what I realized too, that it's not just team to help with work, but it's also part of our team as a mentors who we have in our life. Because the same thinking that got us here is not going to get us there. And the reality is nothing changes if nothing changes. If we want to change our financial situation, we have to change the words that we're listening to, the beliefs that drive all of our behaviors. And one thing that I mentioned in my book on high ticket health coaching is that a good mentor is going to give you counterintuitive advice. What do I mean by that? I mean, if it already made sense, you'd already be doing it, right? So there's something that is missing. The reason why we seek this breakthrough is because the gap between where we are now and where we want to be is the same gap between what we know now and what we don't know yet. And a mentor is able to close that gap some of the fastest. And we see, I'll give you an example of counterintuitive advice. How many of you would think that this widow, her issue was debt? That how many of you would think that if you have a debt problem, the answer to your debt problem is more debt? Like that makes sense, right? No? So, but notice how some of the first words of advice that came out of the man of God's mouth, he said, go borrow the vessels abroad of all thy neighbors. And so he's like, go borrow to build your business. And he said, don't just like get a little bit of debt, like max the credits or like lift the limits, get a lot of debt. He said, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. Like get as many as you can, because according to these principles, we see that debt is a provision, is a solution that God has provided for poor people to be able to start a business. I lived my life trying to avoid debt, and I was broke, and I had no idea how to change my situation. It wasn't until I began to realize that debt is something that God can allow for us to use to create a business that produces wealth and then use that wealth to pay off the debt. In fact, I can show you that she didn't fully understand every step of the process as she was working, but she was just she was following the coach's advice as a coach would share the play. In fact, in verse 6, we could see that it came to pass when the vessels were full that she said unto her son, bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, there's not a vessel more, and the oil stayed. So in other words, she's following the advice. The man of God says, go borrow a bunch of vessels. So she goes, hey, do you have any vessels I could borrow? And then, so she collects all that from her neighbors. Then he's like, what do I do? Let's pour the oil. So now she's pouring the oil, pour. And then she's trying to figure out, and then she ran out of the oil in the vessels, and her son's like, we're out. What do we do, Mom? And she's like, I don't know. Let's go ask the man of God. So she goes back to the man of God. Notice she's taking it step by step. And yet so many times we want to see the entire flight of stairs before we take the first step. It's not necessary. So the next verse 7, then she came and told the man of God, she's like, all the vessels are full. What do we do now? And he said, go, sell the oil, pay thy debt, and live, thou and thy children of the rest. So a lot of times, God doesn't just give us the full clarity to see the entire path, but he shows us just enough to take the next step. And that is our part. In fact, I had 15 failed business attempts before investing in a mentor, and it was that 16th business that became a multiple six-figure family business. And when I look back at what was a major difference between the first 15 and then that first successful one, was I invested in a mentor. That was a time where I decided that I I found myself wondering, what is the secret to having a profitable business? I see people are doing it, but I'm missing something. What is going on? And the reality is we don't know what we don't know. So I invested in a mentor who was able to help me to lay out a path and get clear on what that looks like. And I followed the advice. I started breaking sales records, started to grow my company. And now I had systems a proven path that I could follow. How many of you feel that you could follow a proven path if you just knew the steps? Type path in the chat below. That's where I was at. And so I was praying to God for a mentor who could show me the path. And then sometimes people ask me, like, Enoch, you failed 15 times. Like, why didn't you quit? And I just tell them, quit and do what? Entrepreneurship is the only thing that I know that is able to allow me to have the freedom that I desire, to be able to share a message that matters, to be able to build the income that I want to have, to be able to support the life that I desire to live. It's like, I don't know of anything else but this entrepreneurship to be able to impact the lives of the people that I know I'm capable of reaching. So my only question is, like, quit and do what? So it's like, quitting is not the option. It's a perseverance until it works. It's not if this works, it's when. And it's continue until it does. So I find that growing a high income health business is very much like driving a car in the dark, where when you're driving, do you get to see the entire destination all the way to where you're going? Is it all lit up? No. Your headlights show you just enough light for you to see what's just before you. And how do you get greater light? It's by moving forward along the path. It's as you drive and you take action and you move in the direction where there is light, where there is clarity, where things are starting to make sense. And a lot of times it's not like, I know that when I'm investing in a mentor, I'm investing in clarity, because a mentor has been where you want to be. A mentor knows the path. The mentor knows the roadblocks, the curves, the shortcuts. He knows if you get veered off track, like a GPS, it can reroute and bring you back. Where when we're lost in the dark, driving at night, not knowing where to go in unfamiliar territory, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that can happen. We might even find ourselves in an unsavory neighborhood where we put ourselves in some danger. And what that looks like in our business is we start making business decisions that we deeply regret because we don't have the guide to help us direct our path. Does that make sense? So another thing is, mentorship is kind of like cutting a check to cut the line. So you're paying for speed. I remember when I started traveling quite a bit for speaking, and as I travel, I realize that there's TSA and there's TSA pre-check. Pre-check's almost always empty. And it's so fascinating to me when I see people walk through, and I'm over here, literally some airports have these lines that look just like this, and they're all full and out the door, and the TSA pre-check is just so simple. Well, if I just pay a little bit of money, I get a pre-check that now when I go through the airport, I don't have to take off my shoes. I don't have to go through the rapid scan body scanner. I don't have to wait in line with all these people. I'm able to just go walk straight up and I'm in and out through security really fast. And that has been so amazing. But that's what we get to do in our business. We get to fast track to our destination, while majority of people are out there who don't pay for the pre-check. They don't have the plan to accelerate it, the connections to show, hey, I'm clear, this is VIP, and I can go through. And it's like, it eliminates speed and hassle. And that's why most people wait in line, just like everybody else. And what I learned is that if you want to get the results that everybody has, then you have to do what everybody does. But if you want to succeed in life, if you want to be in the top 3% in any field, go find out what 97% of people are doing and go do the opposite. And what's powerful is that even as you are monetizing your knowledge online, you get to create a TSA pre-check lane for your clients. While the majority is following the majority advice, your clients have this premium, this red carpet experience that is laying down the path to fast track, to accelerate them to their destination they desire for their health, for their diagnosis, for their body, for their mental, emotional well-being. And that's what we want to be thinking about. How could I eliminate hassle? How could I remove the friction and make it easier for people? Sure, they'll pay the little extra, but it's worth it, because premium people do not like hassle and they do not like wasting their time. So, and that's what we get when we pay for a mentor. And another thing too is, like, let's say you are going to drive. Let's say you weren't flying, you're going to drive. If I invited you to come over to join us for an adventure, and you were saying, like, you got in your car, you're in your driveway, and you say, I refuse to leave my driveway until I see the Welcome to Idaho sign. Like, how ridiculous would that be, right? Because you don't see the Welcome to Idaho, you don't see the destination you desire until you take action, you start moving in that direction. And the reason I say this is because a lot of times it's procrastination, it's fear, it's indecision, it's hesitation, it's the paralysis by analysis that prevents us from reaching our goals. It's not failure, it's fear that prevents us. And it's all of these different ideas that we have that hold us back, but it's by learning, it's really by taking that step. And that's how we start moving in that direction. In fact, Jesus said, yet a little while is a light with you. Walk while you have the light, lest darkness come upon you. And I realized that in business, it's that God rewards the action takers. It's the action takers who are the money makers. And one thing that I learned is we're talking about obtain and submit to a mentor. And one of the most powerful frameworks or plans that I've learned to reach whatever goal that we have, which, by the way, is, can we turn the AC up a little bit, because it's getting kind of toasty in here. Thank you. So one of the things I've learned when I look back at so many of the things that I enjoy or that I'm grateful for, some of the greatest blessings of my life, I could trace from either the team that I have, the studio that I have. We've got a dedicated room for recording, which I've dreamt of having that for years, to the team, the systems, the automations, the software, the just all the different things that I've been very grateful for. I could trace back that there's been a mentor involved in some form or fashion. And so I boiled down to, there's really 5 steps to achieving anything that you desire. There's 5 steps that really simplifies. Number 1, to get extremely clear on exactly what you want. This is so important because many people have vague ideas, obscure ideas. They have no idea. But this is where we want to invest in knowing, what do you desire? What is the business you want? And sometimes, like, mentors have helped me to identify what are examples of what's possible. What are the options? Sometimes we don't even know. Like, I was just consulting with someone this week who's saying, she's like, well, I want to work with people here. I want to do virtual physical therapy. And I also like the community stuff. So she's trying to piece, but I don't really want to sell courses. but I don't really want to do a bunch of one-on-one stuff. She's just trying to figure out what she could do. And I was like, well, you can sell your community. People pay a subscription. You communicate one-to-many, take the recordings, put it in your members area. And you could even give people a credit system. On Contact Keeper, we have a system where you can give them 3 credits. When they go to book a call with you, then it takes 1 credit. And when they book a second time, it takes another credit. When they're out of credits, it locks them out from scheduling a call with you and automatically sends them a link where they can purchase more credits. So you could do it that way if you would like. And just whatever the case is, there's opportunities. But by being clear on what you desire, then number 2 is you want to find someone who has the results that you want. And number 3 is pay them whatever they charge to find out what they did. Sometimes I paid with attention, I paid with my time. Sometimes I paid with money, but whatever it is, there's a price to pay. Jesus says that before any man who come to follow after me, let him take up his cross and follow me. In other words, let him count the cost. there's a price to pay for every goal that we want. And so we want to pay them whatever they charge to find out what they want, because there's 3 kinds of work we could do. We can do hard work, we could do guesswork, or we can follow a framework. And I would much rather cut a check to invest in a framework so that I could know exactly what to do. So the 4th step is do exactly what they did. And this is, again, where we're talking about counterintuitive advice. This is being coachable. This is following the plan. And number 5 is continue until you have the results that you want. The perseverance to succeed. And it's not just like, will this work? But it's a determination. Yeah, it's going to work, because it's like, this is a decision that we make. It's a decision to become resourceful and to make it work. So the O in God's plan, it stands for obtain and submit to a mentor. This is so powerful. And the D is very important. Another mistake that I see people making is that they don't have a clear offer. They don't have a clear package to actually sell. They might be helping people. They might be creating content. They might have all this knowledge, but they don't know how to package it really, or they haven't really narrowed down or identified who they want to serve and what they want, what problems they want to solve. They're spreading themselves out too thin. And this lack of clarity as far as like who you are uniquely equipped to serve and in what problem are you uniquely equipped to solve, then this creates a lot of confusion too. So the D in God's plan stands for discover your talents. And I say this intentionally because in fact, we see this experience in 2 Kings 4:2. And Elisha said unto her, what shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? So what I appreciate about how the man of God responded is he wasn't just giving her the answer, he was giving her the question so she could find the answer, because the reality is a good coach is going to help to see in you before you see in yourself. What he's essentially saying is that everything you need for the financial breakthrough is already in your house. It's already in your possession. It's already in your ability to transform people's lives. So many times we're trying to look outside for these solutions, but a good coach will help you to discover the resources you already have. And it's kind of like the example that Candace gave earlier in the testimonial video. She's like, look, I struggled with English for years, but it wasn't until I had a teacher who actually saw what do I have, where am I at now, and then he tailored his advice to help me to grow from there. And she's like, you've been that for our business. You've taken inventory of what we have, where we're at, our disposition, and you've helped us to discover where we belong and where we fit and showed us the clarity along the way. She's like, this is the first time I've ever experienced that. And I had a mentor who said something similar. In fact, I was doubting if I could really succeed as in this health education business, and I had limiting beliefs and fears. And one thing that John Rhodes, he said to me was, Enoch, if you don't believe you can succeed in this health business, I have enough faith for both of us. You can borrow my faith until you have faith for yourself. I remember hearing that and I was like, what? You can do that? That's an option? Like, I didn't even know that was like, that was I could do that. So I've never heard someone so confidently saying, I have enough faith for both of us. Just borrow my faith until you're able to build it. And I chose to take him at his word. I said, you know what? I will borrow your faith. If you believe I can do this, I'm willing to pursue this. And that's when things started to come along. That's when things started to break. I just started breaking the sales records. I got interviewed on multimillionaires. They were asking me on their show and they're saying, how are you growing your business so quickly? And through answering some of their questions and showing them what I've been doing, I realized that there's other health educators who also want to know. And from there, I got invited to share on other business events and teaching health educators how to do what I've been doing. And then I realized that there's a demand or an interest and that people want to know these things, but I wasn't able to see it in myself. And I find that sense, like for you, if you feel, if you're doubting or concerned or question if you can do this, borrow my faith. I will have faith for you. I speak to health educators all throughout the week. I study them, I research, I look, and I see a variety of health educators who are monetizing their knowledge, making a profound difference in the lives of others. And they're doing it in these days. And I know that most people, the thing that you want to offer or sell or to impact people's lives, there's already examples. Like we know them. And what we do a lot in our work is we show examples of people who've been able to succeed so you can model the success, because success leaves clues. You can model what works. You don't have to start from scratch. You can find a path that is easier, like have the tracks to run on, so to speak. So borrow my faith until you can have faith for yourself. One of the greatest gifts that I give my students is I don't accept their limitations. When people feel that they can't, or they're stuck, or that they aren't able to do something, can we take the, can we uncover the grate or the vents, please? That would be really helpful. Thank you. So the one of the best things that we can give our clients is not to accept their limitations. And as we do that, it opens the doors for people to be able to reach new heights and new experiences. So that's what we see the man of God did. And the second thing, notice the response. When he said, "What do you have in your house?" She said, "Thy handmaid hath not anything in the house save a pot of oil." So she was saying like, oh, I don't have anything of value. No one's going to buy from me. Yeah, it's easy to see value in what other people do, but it's hard to see value in what we do. And it's like, yeah, you could do that because you're in weight loss, or you can do that because you're in health, but what I teach can't be taught in a group, or what I teach people don't actually pay for. Where I live, people don't pay a premium for this stuff. We buy into these limitations, and then we say we can't afford the time, the energy. I don't have enough time, I don't have enough knowledge, I don't have enough energy to be able to do the steps to succeed, because we've already bought a lie. And what I appreciate from Jim Quick, he says that when you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. So we don't want to fight for your limitations. You know, a lot of people say like, you know, well, I don't have any skills. All I know how to do is like cook and clean, do housekeeping stuff. It's like, I can't monetize that. It's like, excuse me, have you seen Martha Stewart? She built $1 billion brand on those exact things. Of course you can monetize your housekeeping, cooking, culinary, health, nutrition things. And sometimes people are like, well, I'm more introvert. I'm not this popular, bubbly, extroverted person. And I don't know how to speak. Like, I just listen to people. It's like, well, have you seen Lewis Howes? Lewis Howes built a multi-million-dollar, multiple 8-figure business on the back of interviewing health experts, asking them questions. And he's interviewing Caroline Leaf. She's a neuroscientist, talking about how to heal your body and mind. He's got 3.7 million views there. And he's often interviewing health experts on a variety of topics. And that's what people can do. In fact, I have a student of mine, his name is Anthony. He wanted to teach people a biblically centered addiction recovery program, that he wanted to help people recover from addiction based on biblical principles, true biblical teachings. And I was sharing, I was like, of course you can do that. And he's saying that I don't really know how to teach or share or do these things. And he learned about this reporters platform that I talk about in my book on high ticket health coaching. And as I'm sharing today, he heard this story that I just shared with you about Lewis Howes. He said, well, I could do that. So immediately, like the next month, he's created this podcast, and he started interviewing or reaching out to people in the addiction recovery space. And he was able to book speaking engagements. One of them was an influencer who had like 60-something thousand followers, and on his second interview. And then she opened the door for him to meet some other influencers in the addiction space or recovery space. And then he called me up and he said, look, I'm going live. Each day that I go live on TikTok, on other people's platforms, I'm reaching thousands of people. I have 111 people on my TikTok. If I do it on my platform, I don't have that many people, but because what you taught me about leveraging other people's audiences, starting this podcast, this has given me access to thousands of people who I otherwise would have never reached. I'm doing this because of you. Thank you so much. And he said that even those talks opened the door for him to get booked, to travel, to speak at another event on the other side of America, where he is going to be a guest speaker along with big name presenters in his field. And he's like, I'm nobody. Like, I just got started. Like, why am I being introduced into these places? And I was sharing with him, it's like, he was just following the principles, the path, it works. And he did this within a few months. It doesn't take years and months to try to figure this stuff out. You're able to do these in days. In fact, you can get an interview scheduled within the next week if you wanted to. You can start speaking on other people's platforms in the next week if you desire to take action like that. And this is one of the reasons why one thing that we do when we're working with our clients, the first step that we like to go to is offer creation secrets, where we get very clear on what is your offer. We help you to discover your talents. We help you to get clear on who are you serving and how do you package your knowledge into a lucrative program. One, and not just building a business that's profitable, but building a profitable business that you enjoy, that actually lights you up, that makes sense for your family, if you're homeschooling your children, or if you're single, or if you have a husband that's old and you're both retired and his health is not doing too well and you want to spend more time with him and not be traveling long distance. Whatever season of life you're in, we've been able to work with people from a variety of different backgrounds to get very clear on how do we structure your business so that you can enjoy your life, to live the life that you desire. And that's the type of things that we cover in Offer Creation Secrets. So that is the O in God's plan. What about the D? The D, what we're talking about is discover your talent. Now that we have an offer, the next thing that we want to do is we want to systemize your solutions. Systems make a huge difference, because a big mistake a lot of health educators make that prevents them from scaling is that they make everything dependent upon them. They become the bottleneck of their business and they don't have the automations in place. This is why Contact Keeper is so profound, because it allows you to automatically follow up with contacts, to book your contacts, not going back and forth, book your consultation calls, to be able to take payments even at nighttime while you're on vacation. Your Contact Keeper is still accepting payments online. And you're scheduling your content, you're creating systems for your business to be able to operate without you. And we see this similar principle in 2 Kings 4:5. So she went from him, the man of God, and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. So in other words, she had the shut door process for filling the vessels with the oil. And I believe every health educator out there can benefit by having a shut door proprietary process, to have some sort of framework or a system whereby you are able to deliver value. And this is where we get clear on what is that framework. One of the best definitions I've heard of business that I appreciate, it says that business is a system of delivering value to the marketplace. Business is a system of delivering value to the marketplace. And it's so clear, because all money is a result of value you've added. How do you add value? By solving valuable problems. Why valuable? Because not every problem pays the same when it's solved. But it's not enough to just solve problems that depend upon you as a solution. You want a system to be able to do it. What does system stand for? System is an acronym, and it stands for saving yourself time, energy, money, and stress. How many of you want to have a system for not only making money or making an impact, but delivering value, solving problems at scale? So what we do is we get clear on what are the systems that need to be placed in your business to be able to grow, to be able to operate without you, so that you're able to systematically serve others. In fact, my word of the year for 2026 is systematic. This is a year that I'm going to double down on systems. I'm going to double down on being able to have these systems for my life, because one thing that we read, like even in the book, I think it's called Tiny Habits or Atomic Habits, one of the two, it says that we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. So whatever, like our business, your business is a direct reflection of the systems you have. Systems for capturing leads, systems for converting those leads, systems for ascending those leads to purchase more frequently and higher price programs, and even systems for retaining those clients. So your business is a direct reflection of the systems that you have. And we all have a system, but some of us have a broken system, like pouring water into a vessel with holes in it and it's leaky, and that's why it's hard. It's like what people talk about as payday is not really payday, it's more as transfer day. Because you're working and you're trading time for money and you get a paycheck, but that paycheck doesn't go to your bank, it goes to your bills. So it goes directly from you and it just transfers to another person's account. So it's not really a payday, it's a transfer day. But that's because we're putting money into a vessel with holes. Instead, we want to plug those holes, have the right systems so that we can fill it and we can multiply it. So that's one of the things that we do is we work with our clients and tap into what I like to call in my book, the automation effect. In fact, I have a free YouTube video you could look up right now. It's about, this is my framework for creating frameworks. This is how you can create your flagship framework to create the content for your course, your coaching program, your event, the foundation of monetize your knowledge, how to structure in a way that you get clarity and you're able to get, I like framework is a step-by-step process to get repeatable results. When you're able to structure your business into a framework, then you're able to simplify the solutions that you deliver. You're able to increase the success rate of your clients. You're able to walk people through a process. And some people are like, well, what I do is so complex that you can't put that into a framework. Well, there are still principles. Like, now it's true that there's, generally speaking, even if you're going to do one-on-one coaching with each person, about 80% of what you're teaching to each person is still going to have overlap. It's going to be similar things. So instead of doing one-on-one and teaching the same thing over and over, you package the overlap and you create a framework from the things they have in common. And that 20% that truly is unique and really is different, you can have office hours and address them in this group. You can do like the credit system like I talked about to be able to allow people to schedule with you. There's ways that you can handle it in that capacity. So how many of you would love to automate your business and double your income? In fact, that was the name of the video, how I automated my coaching business and doubled my income with the automation effect. So just type automate in the chat below. One of the systems for value is not only the contact keeper, which will automate, it'll bring automation in your business, but also we do this through having a signature speech. So in our signature speech secrets, we show you how to create a system of delivering value to the marketplace, how to communicate your ideas in a way that people want to pay. So the talks you give are profitable talks. You can get paid not just from speaker fees, which they can fluctuate and come and go, or be feast and famine sometimes, but you will always be able to make the money off on the back end because you are following the principles we talked about yesterday. And by having a signature speech, it really creates a system for creating content, a system for being able to educate people closer to sell, to prepare people before they get on a consultation call. It helps with so many different things. And this is what Warren Buffett said, and I read this in my 20s. He said, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you'll be working until you die. Because truly, I read that and I thought, wow, that's so true. It's not just the desire to make money while you're sleeping. I think it's something that it provides a financial fortress for our family so that regardless what the economy is doing, it does not have to affect your economy. You're able to have you have some sort of security blanket, so to speak, that's able to help to provide for your families. I think that putting your family at risk by whether you get sick or a cold or a medical expense. I mean, I gotta see John and Kathy when John was in the ICU and he was passing away, because John had built systems that disconnect his income generation from his time, and he built a business. He was able to continue to provide for his wife even while he was in the ICU and going through all that, and his business actually grew in his absence while in the hospital and started breaking forth new records while he wasn't able to actually run it physically. Like, this is a type of business we're talking about. I think it is financially responsible for our family and our loved ones to position our family in a way that it disconnects our income generation for our time. It's not just a dream of ease and simplicity and convenience. I think it's a necessity in today's economy when all the instability and uncertainty things are out there. It's more important now than ever before to be able to disconnect your income generation from your time. And one of the ways you do that is by systemizing your solution, which is yes in God's plan. Having systems. God is a God of order. He's not the author of confusion. So P stands for pick your profitable partners. This is very key because a lot of media wants to tell you about this self-made success, this overnight success. And I'll tell you right now, every overnight success was 12 years in the making. And really, there's no such thing as a self-made success. There's only a team-made success. You show me a successful health educator and I'll show you a successful team behind that educator. So building a team or a support system is extremely helpful. They're strategic partners. Well, let's look at who was on the widow's team. First of all, she had God on the widow's team. And I really love this photo. It shows Jesus shaking hands in his business transactions, and it's showing that God wants to be deeply involved in your transactions. And I believe that when God is able to bless your business because you show up from a place of integrity, from honesty, from that you have systems in place that actually allow you to do and follow through with what you say you're going to do, it builds trust. It strengthens your reputation in the marketplace. And it's a business that God can bless because you're glorifying God, just like Daniel and Joseph. They were able to glorify God through their business transactions, and God blessed them and gave them through these principles, they produced prosperity. And how many of you would like to have God as your partner in sales? And I believe that the more that we see God in each of these transactions, we show up from a place not of scarcity or of desperation. I think these are very dangerous places to try to change our financial situation, but we're coming from a place of abundance. Even if at first it may not feel abundant, abundance begins in our heart first, and it flows out into the work that we do. And we'll make more decisions it'll make better decisions we don't regret. And then who else was on the widow's team? Well, she got the man of God on her team. And a lot of times we don't think of as our mentors as being a part of our team, but she saw the value of getting a business mentor and that's where I found is investing in marketing mentors. I've got mentors for my speech. I've got coaches for my memory. I've invested in coaches for my multiple for speaking coaches and multiple book writing coaches and book marketing coaches, which those aren't always the same. Some people know how to write books, don't know how to market books. I'm just saying. And there's different coaches for this. Proverbs says, "In a multitude of counselors, there's safety." So I like to consider who are the mentors that I want to have on my team. Who are the advisors? I want to create a board of advisors that I can have. And in fact, who did the man of God tell her to get? Who's the next person that he said to add to the widow's dream team? And it was the creditors. He said, "Go borrow the vessels abroad of all thy neighbors." So even the creditors were on her dream team. Now, we don't usually think of Visa or MasterCard as being a part of our dream team, or the lenders or the people that we are borrowing money from. But again, a lot of times the creditors or credit cards are able to give us the ability to pay to invest in a business that could generate an income that we otherwise wouldn't be able to create if we were relying just on our own funds that we currently have now. So that's also a part of our dream team. And then finally, she had her sons. Her sons were a part of her dream team, which I love family businesses. They're so beautiful because in my experience, my mom was my first business mentor. And I grew up with my mom going to like thrift stores. She's like, ooh, I could buy this for 50 cents and sell it on eBay for $50. And I thought that was normal. I thought all families were doing that. So I went to a grocery store and I said, oh, I could buy these candy bars for 50 cents and sell them at people's doorstep for $1. So before I was a teenager, I started making like hundreds of dollars, and I was making more money per hour than my mom was at her job as a caregiver. And I got to a point where I could make more if I was able to duplicate myself. So I started hiring my friends to also sell for me, and I would pay them. And sometimes like 10-year-old math doesn't math, right? So she would explain to me, she's like, look, you can't just split half of it because then you wouldn't have profit. You're like breaking even. You have to give them like something else. And she would help me to make sense of it sustainable, where it makes sense for my friend, it makes sense for me, it makes sense for them. And then I was able to make thousands of dollars in middle school, and then even more in high school. So this the thing about partnerships though is that these partnerships is what allows you to grow in ways you can't grow yourself. Because in business, anything you lack in resources, you could always make up in leverage. So that's why we provide Platform Promotion Secrets, because it's all about forming strategic partnerships with platform hosts. They have your dream audience. They have your ideal clients. They're already congregating online. It's really about getting your message before their audience. They're already gathered to hear you out. So that's why we like Contact Keeper in our software, because it helps you to keep your contacts. You know, we've heard of investing in bookkeepers, but when was the last time you heard in investing in a contact keeper? A contact keeper that's going to keep your contacts, that's going to send out messages and reminders, and it's going to help to write down and be able to keep track of everybody who's on your list, who's able to respond to people 24/7, so that they're able to get the information they need when they fill out your opt-in form, when they request a free audit or a free masterclass. Your Contact Keeper employee, essentially, the software, is able to automatically send them the video that you promised. You might be going through life, or you might be doing something else. And even now, like, we have our Contact Keepers sending out to people because our software is set up where you set it up one time and it's a fraction of the cost of paying for a full-blown employee. And really what you would easily pay an employee for a month, it just covers the entire cost. Like, people will pay $2,000 a month or more for an employee. For Contact Keeper, it's $2,000 a year, and you have it for the entire year along with the coaching in Skills Unlimited. Everything that we talked about yesterday, you get Skills Unlimited, so much more. And Contact Keeper is free, and you get that. And I'm just like, this is awesome. But a lot of business is about forming strategic partnerships that creates a win-win opportunity for everybody involved. And the reason I invested in Contact Keeper and could do that, I invested in this software because I saw that this will solve so many problems for my clients. I want to know, how could I solve problems, avoid hassle, make things faster, easier, quicker, and that we could provide templates for their business to make things easier as needed. And depending on what the goal is, just actually go in and help people. Now, because we have a centralized software that becomes like the operating system of your business, then it makes it a lot easier. So we can invest in this software to provide for our clients at no extra cost. It's literally a free bonus for anyone who joins. Our prices stay the same, or just value increased. So that's how we think about it. And I believe that the more that we look at, instead of just making decisions on what do we get, but we make decisions on what do we give? How could I help our clients and do more? And the cool thing about Contact Keeper, it doesn't require more work, more time, more stuff for us, but we're able to give more value. And these are the types of value adds that we want to add to our offers. So the P stands for pick your profitable partners. What about the L? L stands for lovingly sell your talents. Now you have an offer. Now you have a speech. Now you have partners that you're speaking to their stages. Now it's time to lovingly sell your talents. And we see that there are 3 steps to financial independence that are outlined in verse 7. The first was go sell, pay, live. Sell the oil, pay thy debt, and live, thou and thy children of the rest. And what we learn is that those who refuse to sell will be unable to pay. And those who are unable to pay will eventually be unable to live. And as her children was being taken into slavery or servitude to work off that lack of payment, but we see that God's established plan to give a financial breakthrough is selling. Selling is God's way all throughout Scripture. I've been saying it all week for you to create wealth. Learn to sell and learn to sell well. It's one of the most highest paying skills in existence. Sales is one of the most honorable professions in the marketplace because without selling, people are not served. Money isn't transferred. Every dollar you desire to use to pay for anything you want is currently in the pockets of people with problems. And if you can solve the problems for them, they're willing to trade the money in their pockets for the solution in your possession. And when you exchange, both parties walk away with more than what they had. And this is the way. This is God's way for bringing about a financial stability for those who will follow the financial principles. And it just baffles me how much resistance that we have, because I believe the enemy cannot steal your blessings. He can't take your blessing away, but what he could do is he could deceive you or tempt you into believing that you don't want your blessing. But the conditions of the financial blessing is selling. And people are selling their time to employers, to whoever the highest bidder is, and sometimes not even the highest bidder. Sometimes they just sell their time to go work at a job that they settled for. It's not something they really enjoyed, but it's unfortunate because there's so much more talents you can sell other than time. You can sell results, you can sell knowledge, you can sell software, you can sell courses, access. There's so many ways that you can sell communities and subscriptions and programs and group experiences. You're not limited to time to sell. It's like one of the worst things, the most limiting things to sell, but I digress. So the reason why we call this lovingly sell your talents is because it's very key, and there's a reason for it. And I'll ask you, who would like to know the master key to selling? The master key to selling, it's type key in the chat below if you'd like to know. This key will unlock more people saying yes. It will help you to learn the skill that pays the bill. This will help you to understand sales at a level that most people don't. And when you get this, selling becomes effortless. It becomes enjoyable, easier. And the master key to selling is this. It's when you truly love the people that you sell to, that you refuse to sell them anything that is not in their best interest to buy. Because when you refuse to sell them what's not in their best interest to buy, then you're able to sell from a place of integrity, a place from honesty, where people can sense that. If you don't really believe in what you sell, then people sense that too. And one of the reasons why I've been so good at selling is because I refuse to sell something that wouldn't actually help someone. And if I didn't believe in what we were selling, people would see that and they're like, well, I don't want to be a part of that. One of the reasons why we have so many happy, satisfied clients who like to refer others is because we take care of our clients. We follow through with what we say we're going to do, and we help support people who are going through the process. So one key to remember is don't fall in love with your product, fall in love with your people. This love is not just a woo-woo kind of thing. This is a real sales strategy that a lot of people overlook. And this is why we teach the phone selling secrets, how you are able to sell and learn to sell well and know exactly what to say in a way that's able to serve people at the highest level and able to do it in a sustainable manner. Dean Graziosi, he shared, he's done over $1 billion in sales. Do you think we can learn something from someone who's done over $1 billion in sales? I think so. I heard him say before that the reason that I've built such a $1 billion brand and been able to do partnerships with some of the biggest names in the industry is because I love my customers so much. Even billionaires recognize, and I'm not saying all billionaires are loving people, but the billionaires who have done good for people, they recognize that to build a brand that lasts, to create customers for life, is to really love your clients. He's like, I listen to your comments. I pay attention to what you're looking for. I'm always looking for ways that I could solve problems, serve you, and help you. And I hear what your struggle is, and I read through your comments. I spend hours doing that. And it's one of my favorite things I get to do because I make sure that my topics are relevant to your experience, what you're talking to. So that's why he resonates with so many people. He has thousands of people on his platform because he's actually speaking a language of love. He's speaking a language that actually helps people. So the more that we tap into that, that's why L is lovingly sell your talent. It's very overlooked, but it's definitely makes a huge difference. And the A stands for acquit your debt. Now, we see that the answer was go sell the oil, pay thy debt. And one thing I want to point out is if you'll notice, getting out of debt, contrary to popular belief, is not the first step to financial freedom. In fact, it's not even the second or even the third step to financial freedom. It's actually one of the last steps, but it is so often marketed by people who are trying to sell a get out of debt program or product that you need to get out of debt and avoid debt, and this is the most important thing you can do in life and the first step for financial freedom. But hey, have you ever stopped to think that debt free is still zero? It's like you're going, oh, I can't wait to get out of debt. It's like saying, well, I can't wait to get to zero as fast as I can. Just because you're out of debt doesn't mean that you're wealthy, doesn't mean you're financially stable, doesn't mean that you have a stability for the future. When I was homeless, living in my car, I was debt free. I was following the advice to avoid debts. But what I realized is that there's like homeless people are still debt free. And then I learned that from my mentor that he actually owed back taxes on his house. He was using credit cards to pay off other credit cards. He was struggling financially. You could see that the financial direction is like a downward incline, and he was in need of a financial breakthrough. And what he did is he shared with me how he actually borrowed on a credit card to start his business. And then he followed the advice of his mentor. And as he followed that advice, he was able to reach the 6-figure income level in 6 months, following those principles. And that was the first time I ever heard of someone using debt to build a business or to actually like create wealth, which I've never realized that before. So what I ended up doing is that was the first time I borrowed on my credit card to build a business. And then I have my credit card paid off within the first month. And then the next month I was making thousands of dollars. Then I started breaking more sales records and things started taking off. The rest is history. But I didn't know that was an option. In fact, I was trained to think all debt was bad debt. But the reality is not all debt is created equally. There's good debt and there's bad debt. Bad debt is when you borrow to pay for a car you can't afford, a house you can't afford and you live in, and you pay for clothing that you don't need, and the restaurants and foods that are beyond your means. Like, these are bad debt. These are income reducing liabilities. Good debt is when you use other people's money to invest, to get a return on investment, to invest in your business, or to create an income producing asset that's able to generate wealth for you. And then you can use the wealth created from your business to pay off the debt. That's usually the plan. And that we see the steps in God's plan in this passage. This is how God used it. Now, I know Dave Ramsey is very prominent in sharing this get out of debt. But my only advice is don't follow what Dave Ramsey says, follow what Dave Ramsey does. And what does Dave Ramsey do? He builds a business that creates income and he uses that income to be able to buy the stuff that he desires. I mean, it's really building a business is the path. So the A stands for acquit your debt. And finally, the N stands for now sustain your breakthrough. And we see, he said, go sell the oil, pay thy debt, and live thou and thy children the rest. What this pretty much is the same steps that you use to get your first client, you now do it to get your second and third until you're able to do 3 a month. And now you're at $9,000 a month. Now you're at 6 figures. Now you're able to do more of what works, less of what doesn't work. As you're testing your offer, you're getting your message and market match. As things are starting to connect and you're consistently selling your program, now keep doing the things that work, put more gas to the fire. Once you nail it, then you can scale it, and it helps to be able to go beyond what you could do before. So a recap of these 8 steps is G is go seek a breakthrough. If we do not seek, we will not find. O is obtain and submit to a mentor. If we really want to cut the line and cut the time, then just cut a check. That is like the master shortcut I've learned in business. D is discover your talents. So that's where we craft an irresistible offer, get very clear on what people would actually pay for. S is systemize your solutions. And that you could systemize with a signature speech, with software like Contact Keeper, with your frameworks, with your flagship programs. So P is pick your profitable partners. She had God on her side. She had the man of God, her mentor. She had the creditors. She had her family. She involved other people. Always also platforms. People have these audiences. L is lovingly sell your talents. This is where you learn the skills that actually help influence people's decisions to really change their life. And A is acquit your debt. You're producing sales. You're creating an income. You use that income to pay off your debts. And N is now sustain your breakthrough. When you follow these steps, you will experience God's plan for financial breakthrough. And remember, for those who want to join our program, we still have the ability to discuss what we can do for your program. You can join either the Skills Unlimited program or the Accelerator. There's different ways that you could join. You want to go to www.mentormeenoch.com. Definitely have www in there, but we can schedule a call. Let's talk. We can talk about your goals, your plans. How can we apply this plan to your life? And even if it isn't working with us, like these principles still work. And also, if you enjoy this learning environment, I actually go live every Tuesday at 9. If you'd like to join us at a specific time, we will get on Zoom and you can do some question and answers, and we can help support you and then teach some lessons that could be of value to you. And we'll even pick topics. I'd be happy to pick some topics that would be particularly helpful for the situations you're in. So beyond the challenge, if you want to maintain some momentum between now and next time, best thing I would recommend is join one of our programs. If now's not a good time for that, then you could still join us on Zoom and reach out to me, and we can discuss about how we could support one another. But this is officially the end. We're here on day 5 of the High Income Health Expert Challenge. It's really been a blast to be able to serve you, and I look forward to seeing your success and your health and how you get to mature and grow and what God reveals to you as we move on to the new year. I pray that this new year is the best year of your life. And until next time, remember, God doesn't call a qualified, He qualifies a called. Have a great day, and God bless.